Star Trek Operation Enterprise is a MACK Rides multi-launch coaster located at Movie Park, Germany. It opened in 2017 and to this day is the only ride in the world themed to the Star Trek franchise. When it opened, it also instantly became the new icon of Movie Park, Germany. You see it right at the front entrance when you walk in, but because of where the station is located, it's in its own little plaza. So actually, the entrance for this ride sits more in the middle of the park. There's a total of 3 inversions. There's a backwards spike, max speed 56 miles per hour. I had the opportunity to experience this a couple times, and overall I enjoyed it, but for the most part I did think the experience was a little bit underwhelming. And what I mean by that is, you hear about how this ride is the star of Movie Park, Germany, so you expect it to be the best ride there. It's got these really thrilling elements, everything on paper looks great, but then when you're actually on it, it felt a little tame. The ride experience is not very intense at all. And then you add in the fact that even though it opened only 5 years ago as of when this video is being made, it was a pretty rattly experience, which I know that sometimes does happen with MACK Rides roller coasters. Not all of them, obviously, but this is definitely not the only one that kind of suffers from that. In no way is that like a death sentence to it, like, oh, because it was shaky, I didn't like it all. Nah, I could still get enjoyment out of some of these different moments, but the roller coaster as a whole had a very strange pace to it. It had multiple moments where it'd start to build up some speed and then it'd slow down to a crawl, and then it'd build up more speed and then it'd slow down again. There's a lot of notable moments of hang time, which might have been what they were going for here. So in that regards, this experience is more similar to, I would say, Copperhead Strike if I have to draw a comparison to a US roller coaster. I believe Sarah said this ride reminded her of Copperhead Strike meets Pantheon with that whole back and forth at the beginning. And I do think that's a pretty accurate way to describe this layout, because both Copperhead and Pantheon also have some pretty bizarre pacing. And if you've done other MACK Rides multi-launch coasters, then I think you know what to expect, especially with that launch experience. They're not exactly known for using fast accelerations. The first launch of Star Trek is super gradual. I mean, it starts off where you're like barely moving. You're like, oh, are we going? Are we going? And then it kicks in, but only just as you're about to slow down, and now you're moving backwards. I think the best parts of this ride for me were the backwards spike, the airtime hill right before the final inversion, and that final inversion, which was a 0G roll. It is a shorter ride experience, so there's not too many different elements. I mean, we're talking about the multipass launch, the twisted spike, a top hat, that double kind of heart-shaped inversion, an overbank curve, double down, helix, and then 0G roll. The roller coaster as a whole does not take up much space at all. So I will give MACK Rides props for fitting in actually as much as they did into this plot of land. It's very cool visually when you're entering the park and you just see that ride. And I did enjoy what they did with the plaza here. When you're entering the queue, there's lots of different references to Star Trek: The Next Generation. This is a show that I have not seen, so I'm not going to pretend to know everything that they're showing here, but I was told that some of the props that are in the queue were actually used on the show. There's a room you enter right before you get to the station where you're on board the Starship Enterprise, which is pretty cool looking. The trains are set up the exact same way if you've done a ride like Copperhead Strike, Blue Fire, or Helix. They're very comfy seats, good lap bar, though it will come down further on you during the ride experience. I really enjoy this first transfer out of the station. It's a very neat way to start off the ride, and they have this music going. It really kind of gets you in the mood. The score was done, of course, by IMAscore, and they did a fantastic job. I mentioned how that first launch is very underwhelming. Going backwards through here is very fun, and man, do you shoot up this twisted spike. It is so cool. I definitely recommend sitting in the back for this moment, because I mean, if you don't see it coming, you're gonna be surprised how tall this thing is. I believe it's 131 feet in the air, and being in the back twisting up it is really cool. I mean, it's very reminiscent of like an Intamin Impulse coaster. So that absolutely caught me off guard. After you fall forward, you hit your max speed and twist up over your top hat. In the back row, this top hat does give some pretty decent airtime. You plunge down to the ground, and now you enter this really crazy moment of hang time. It's basically an Immelman, but as you're exiting out, you go into a heartline roll and then drop back down to the ground. And you move through the top there very slowly. The train's like crawling through, so that's why you very much are stalling. You're kind of hanging out there. When you exit that moment, you bank to the right and you pass through a building. You're only in there for a second, so don't expect any theming or anything. That's when you head into your double down and then a traditional airtime hill. That's that moment I was talking about where you really go sending up out of your seat. You bank real low to the ground here to the left, and then another slow moving roll straight into the brake run. So like I said, it's a quick ride experience, and overall it's fun, but I wouldn't say it's mind-blowing. I think when I was leaving Movie Park Germany, my main thoughts were that the ride overall was not as good as I was hoping. It certainly is not a bad roller coaster by any means, but I did walk away wanting more, and if you've done other launch coasters by MACK Rides, I do think there are several that I would place higher than this. Rides that feel more complete, have better standout moments, but I don't think any of them have a spike as good as this one, so I'll definitely give Star Trek that. So for the ride's final score, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's fine. It's absolutely a roller coaster you should do if you go out to Movie Park Germany, and I think the average guest will like it, but I just think when you compare it to other roller coasters of that size that do similar things, I do think this one is kind of forgettable. But hey, I want to hear from you guys down in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Am I wrong about Star Trek? Or do you think there's something I missed? You can post all of that down in the comments below, and stay tuned for more coaster reviews here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.